For years, a boy remained motionless, and the father believed fate had condemned him. It was the maid's daughter, with eyes trained by life, who unearthed letters, clues, and the key to the truth. In the end, it was the hesitant steps toward the mother's grave that sealed the promise. The past will not prevail. If this beautiful story of perseverance and love touched you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us from which city you're watching. To be continued. The beautiful Chestnut Manor, nestled in the Ashworth Hills in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, no longer reflected the splendor of yesteryear. The garden, once filled with red roses and white jasmines, now harbored only tall weeds and dry plants struggling to survive neglect. The overcast sky lent an even more melancholic air to a place that, in other times, had been the setting for grand parties and celebrations. Inside the imposing colonial building, Augustus Chestnut's footsteps echoed through the spacious corridors. At 42, the pharmaceutical executive carried in his eyes the weight of having lost more than he could bear. His walk was slow, as if each movement required superhuman effort. His impeccably tailored navy blue suit contrasted with his haggard expression and unshaven beard. "Has Raphael taken his medicine, Mrs. Irene?" Augustus asked, entering the kitchen where the housekeeper was preparing lunch. The black woman in her 50s, her graying hair pulled back in a tight bun, turned to her employer with a maternal look. She had worked for the Chestnut family for over 20 years and had witnessed the rise and fall of that house. "Yes, Mr. Augustus. Nurse Susan gave him everything just as Dr. Beatrice recommended. He's in his room looking out the window." Augustus nodded and walked down the corridor towards his son's room. He paused for an instant before the portrait of Clara, his wife, who had not survived after childbirth complications 8 years ago. The pain of loss still consumed him as if it were the first day. The most devastating part was that, in addition to losing his wife, Raphael was born with an inexplicable paralysis that confined the boy to a wheelchair. Upon entering the room, Augustus found his 8-year-old son sitting in his motorized wheelchair, watching the movement outside. Raphael had his mother's same green eyes, intense and deep, contrasting with the black hair inherited from his father. Despite his physical immobility, his mind was brilliant, and his eyes followed everything with a vivacity that Augustus feared he might one day lose. "Hello, champ. How are you feeling today?" Augustus affectionately ruffled his son's hair. "I'm fine. Dad, Susan said Dr. Beatrice is coming to see me tomorrow." The boy's voice was soft, but carried a maturity that did not belong to his age. "That's right. She wants to adjust some medications." Augustus pulled up a chair and sat beside his son. "Did you eat your breakfast properly?" "I did, but—" Raphael hesitated. "Dad, why do I have to take so many medicines? The other kids at school don't." The question caught Augustus off guard. It wasn't the first time his son had asked, but the answer never got easier. "You know they're to help your body." "Son, Dr. Beatrice explained that they are special vitamins to make you strong." Raphael nodded, not appearing entirely convinced. Augustus changed the subject, talking about a new project at his pharmaceutical company, which was developing affordable medicines for rare diseases. It was work he had started after Raphael's condition, hoping no other family would go through what they were experiencing. In the mansion's main living room, Vanessa Rivers, Augustus's personal secretary for 9 years, was organizing important documents. Tall, elegant, with impeccably styled blonde hair, Vanessa was known for her relentless efficiency. She had been at Chestnut Manor since before Raphael's birth and had become practically indispensable to Augustus, managing both his business and household affairs after Clara's passing. "Augustus, we need to talk about the meeting with the New York City investors," Vanessa called out, as she saw her employer descending the stairs. "And Dr. Beatrice called to confirm her visit tomorrow. She mentioned adjusting Raphael's medication." "Thank you, Vanessa. I don't know what we'd do without you," Augustus replied distractedly, leafing through the documents she handed him. An almost imperceptible smile appeared on Vanessa's face. "I'm here to help. You and Raphael are like family to me." The comment made Augustus look up. There was something in Vanessa's gaze that made him uncomfortable, but he attributed it to his own inability to move on after Clara. The phone rang, breaking the moment. It was from Raphael's school, informing them that the science teacher had praised the boy's work. Augustus felt a pang of pride. Despite all the difficulties, his son did not let his condition limit him intellectually. I need to go out to handle some company matters, Augustus said, picking up his car keys. I'll be back for dinner. Don't worry, I'll take care of everything here, Vanessa replied, in her usual efficient tone. As Augustus drove his Mercedes along the winding road descending the mountain, his mind wandered between business concerns and his son's health. Doctors had never been able to fully explain Raphael's paralysis. Countless consultations with specialists always ended with vague diagnoses about a possible neurological injury during childbirth, but nothing conclusive. At the manor, Mrs. Irene watched Vanessa through the crack in the kitchen door. The secretary was in Augustus's office, rummaging through a locked drawer with a key she took from her necklace. The housekeeper had always been suspicious of Vanessa, but had never been able to prove anything. There was something in the way the secretary looked at Augustus, a mix of obsession and possessiveness that deeply disturbed her. Mrs. Irene, have you seen my bag? Susan, Raphael's private nurse, pulled the housekeeper from her thoughts. It's in the living room, dear, Irene replied, quickly moving away from the door. Are you leaving already? Yes, I'll only be back tomorrow. Dr. Beatrice is coming for Raphael's monthly evaluation. Susan, a 28-year-old with delicate features and a sweet manner of speaking, explained. The afternoon medicines are already separated on the tray. Just give them to him at 4. Irene nodded, though something bothered her. Susan, don't you think it's strange, so many medicines? The boy has been like this for 8 years, and I've never seen any improvement. Susan hesitated before answering. Dr. Beatrice is a specialist, Mrs. Irene. She says they are necessary to prevent his condition from worsening. If you say so, Irene murmured, not entirely convinced. The day passed normally at Chestnut Manor. Raphael spent the afternoon studying with his private tutor. Vanessa busied herself with phone calls and documents, and Mrs. Irene took care of household chores, always casting suspicious glances in the secretary's direction. At dusk, an unknown car parked at the manor gates. From it stepped a middle-aged black woman, simply dressed, holding a girl of about 10 by the hand. Mommy, are you sure you're going to work here? The girl asked, looking with admiration at the imposing building. Yes, Marianne, Mrs. Irene is my childhood friend, and she got me this cook position. It will be good for us, daughter. You'll be able to study at a better school, Zoe replied, adjusting her daughter's backpack. Marianne, or Mary as everyone called her, was a girl with lively and curious eyes. She had dark skin like her mother, and curly hair tied in several colorful braids. Despite her young age, Mary had a maturity and perception that surprised adults. Mrs. Irene received the two at the back door, hugging Zoe tightly. I'm glad you agreed to come. This house needs good, trustworthy people. I appreciate the opportunity, Irene. After George left, it's been hard raising Mary alone, Zoe confessed in a low voice. And this must be Marianne. How you've grown, dear, Irene exclaimed, bending down to the girl's height. Your mother told me you're very smart. Mary smiled shyly. Nice to meet you, ma'am. Come, I'll show you where you'll stay. There's a nice little room at the back of the house near the kitchen, Irene explained, guiding them down the corridor. The master already knows you're arriving today. He's a good man, just very sad since his wife. Well, since she left us. As they walked, Mary observed everything carefully. The paintings on the walls, the antique furniture, the heavy silence that hung in the air. Suddenly her gaze met that of a boy in a wheelchair, who was watching her from the half-open door of a room. Hi, Mary said, stopping at the door. My name is Mariana, but you can call me Mari. What's your name? Raphael, surprised by the direct approach, hesitated before answering. Raphael, are you going to live here? My mom is going to work in the kitchen. I guess so, we're going to live here. Mari moved closer. Why are you in a wheelchair? Mari! Don't be indiscreet, Zoe reprimanded, embarrassed. It's okay, Raphael interjected with a small smile. I was born this way. My muscles don't work properly. Mari tilted her head, observing him with curiosity. That must be boring. Can't you play outside? I can, but not much. It's hard to push the chair on the grass, Raphael explained. I can push you if you want, Mari offered promptly. I'm stronger than I look. A sparkle appeared in Raphael's eyes, something Mrs. Irene hadn't seen in a long time. Really, that would be cool. Come on, Mari, let Raphael rest now, Zoe called. You'll have time to get to know each other later. As they headed to the back room, Irene commented in a low voice, It's been a long time since I've seen the boy so animated. Your daughter has a gift, Zoe. Mari has always had a special way with people. Sometimes it seems like she sees something no one else does, Zoe replied, watching her daughter walk ahead, absorbing every detail of the manor. That night, during dinner, Augustus met Zoe and Mari. The girl impressed him with her direct questions and frank manner of speaking. Raphael, who usually remained silent during meals, actively participated in the conversation, answering Mari's curious questions about his favorite books and games. "It's good to see Raphael like this. Animated," Augustus commented to Irene as they watched the children chat. Vanessa, who was also at the table, observed the interaction with a cold gaze. "I hope this excitement isn't too much for him. Remember what Dr. Beatrice always says about not emotionally overwhelming him." "A little joy won't hurt the boy," Irene retorted, unable to hide her acidic tone. Vanessa gave the housekeeper a hard look. "I'm just thinking about his well-being, as I always do." The tension at the table was palpable, but Augustus, accustomed to the small squabbles between the secretary and the housekeeper, didn't pay much attention. His focus was on his son, who seemed more alive than he had in many months. Later, when everyone had retired, Mari silently left the room she shared with her mother. Curiosity compelled her to explore the mysterious house. With light steps, she walked through the dark corridors, guided only by the moonlight filtering through the large windows. Passing Raphael's room, she noticed the door was ajar. The boy was awake, sitting in bed, flipping through a book with the help of a special stand. "Can't sleep?" Mari asked, making him jump in surprise. "Mari!" "You scared me," Raphael said, recovering. "No, sometimes it's hard to fall asleep." "Can I come in?" she asked, already crossing the threshold without waiting for an answer. "What book is that?" "It's about architecture. I'd like to see designs of houses and buildings," he explained, as Mari settled on the edge of the bed. "Cool, I like to draw. Not houses, but people and animals." Mari looked around the room, noticing the various medical devices and bottles of medicine on the nightstand. "You take all that?" Raphael nodded. "Every day. Dr. Beatrice says they're vitamins to help me get strong, but—" He hesitated. "But what?" Mari pressed. "Nothing." "Forget it." Raphael closed the book. "Mari, have you explored the whole house yet?" "Not yet. I just arrived, remember?" Mari smiled. "But I plan to get to know every little corner. I like to discover secrets." "What kind of secrets?" "Every place has secrets. My mom says I have a good eye for finding hidden things." Mari jumped up. "Tomorrow I'll take you for a walk outside, as I promised." Raphael smiled with genuine enthusiasm. "Won't you be afraid to push my chair? It's heavy. I told you I'm strong." "And I'm sure you're not that heavy," Mari replied confidently. "Now I need to go back before my mom wakes up and realizes I left." With a quick wave, Mari disappeared through the door, leaving behind a thoughtful Raphael. For the first time in a long time, the boy felt something akin to hope blossoming in his chest. Meanwhile, in the downstairs office, Vanessa checked some documents by the light of a small lamp. Among the papers were Raphael's medical reports and detailed notes about his medication. The secretary's expression was tense as she spoke on the phone in a low voice. "Dr. Richard, we need to talk urgently. There have been changes here at the house and I'm concerned." "Yes, tomorrow at your office." "Don't worry, I have everything under control." After hanging up, Vanessa carefully placed the documents in a folder which she locked in a drawer. Her gaze wandered to a photograph on the wall. Augustus, Clara, and herself in happier times before Raphael's birth. Her fingers caressed Augustus's face in the photo with a possessive touch. "No one is going to ruin what I've built," she murmured to herself, turning off the light and leaving the office in complete darkness. The next morning, the manor was awakened by the sound of laughter coming from the garden. Augustus, who had been working in his office since early morning, went to the window and saw a scene that warmed his heart. Mari was pushing Raphael's wheelchair through the garden, showing him the plants and making comments that made the boy laugh openly. "It's been so long since I've seen him like this," he commented, more to himself than to Vanessa, who had just entered the office. "Augustus, are you sure it's wise to let Raphael expose himself so much?" "The sun, the exertion. Dr. Beatrice always recommended rest," Vanessa warned, approaching the window. "Look at him, Vanessa. He's happy." "That's priceless," Augustus replied, without taking his eyes off the children outside. In the garden, Mary took Raphael to a more secluded area of the property, near the ivy-covered wall. "What's over there?" Raphael asked, pointing to a small tool shed. "Let's find out," Mary exclaimed, steering the chair towards it. The place was dusty and abandoned, clearly unused for years. Mary began to rummage through the shelves, while Raphael watched with interest. "Look, a gardening shovel." "We could plant some flowers," Mary suggested, picking up the tool. "I don't know if my dad will like it. No one has touched the garden since my mom—" Raphael stopped, his voice choked. Mary approached, placing her hand over his. "Since your mom what?" "Since she left us." "That's when I was born," Raphael explained, his eyes downcast. "She took care of the roses. There were hundreds of them all over the garden." Mary looked around, noticing the empty and neglected flower beds. "We could plant roses again. It would be a way to remember her, don't you think?" A sad smile appeared on Raphael's face. "That would be nice." As they talked, Mary noticed something strange on the ground near the wall. A small depression in the soil, as if the earth had given way. For some reason she didn't even understand herself, she felt a strong attraction to that spot. "Raphael, what do you think is there?" she asked, pointing to the spot. "I don't know. It just looks like a hole in the ground." "No, it's different. It feels—" "I can't explain it. It feels like something is calling me," Mary said, already heading to the spot with the shovel in her hand. "Mary, what are you doing?" Raphael asked, alarmed when he saw her start to dig. "I can't explain it. It's a feeling. Like there's something important here." Mary continued digging with determination. "My mom always says I have a sixth sense for finding things." After a few minutes of digging, the shovel hit something solid. Mary knelt and with her hands removed more earth, revealing a small metal box the size of a book buried next to the wall. "See? I told you there was something here," Mary exclaimed triumphantly, holding up the box. Raphael stared wide-eyed. "How did you know?" "I didn't know. I just felt it," Mary replied, examining the box. It was an old jewelry box with embossed floral details, closed with a small rusty padlock. "Let's open it," Raphael suggested, leaning forward in his chair. Mary tried to force the padlock, but it was impossible to open without the key. "It's locked. We need a tool to break it." At that moment, they heard Vanessa's voice calling for Raphael. "I think we'd better go back," the boy said, visibly disappointed. "Hide the box. We can try to open it later." Mary quickly put the box in her backpack, which was hanging on the wheelchair, and began to push Raphael back to the house. As they approached, they saw Vanessa standing at the back door, arms crossed and a stern expression. "Raphael, Dr. Beatrice has arrived for your appointment." "Hand you're all dirty," Vanessa reprimanded, casting an accusing glance at Mary. "Your mother is looking for you, dear. You'd better go." Mary and Raphael exchanged a knowing glance before parting ways. The mysterious box would have to wait, but both knew they had found something important. Something that could change everything in the silent and melancholic Chestnut Manor. Dr. Beatrice Silvera, a middle-aged woman with red-framed glasses and graying hair cut in a chic bob, meticulously examined Raphael. Her experienced hands checked the boy's reflexes, while Augustus anxiously watched from beside the bed. "Any changes, doctor?" he asked when the doctor finished the examination. "The reflexes remain the same, with no significant changes," the doctor replied, making notes on her clipboard. "We'll maintain the medication regimen for now, with just a small increase in the dosage of the neural vitamin." Augustus nodded, though a shadow of disappointment crossed his face. 8 years of treatment, and Raphael's condition remained unchanged. The country's best specialists had been consulted, sophisticated tests performed, but the exact cause of his son's paralysis remained a medical mystery. "Raphael, have you been feeling well?" "Any discomfort, dizziness?" Dr. Beatrice asked the boy directly. "No, just a little tired sometimes. After taking the afternoon medicines," Raphael replied. "It's normal. These are expected effects of the medication," the doctor explained, putting away her instruments. "Continue taking everything at the correct times, and we'll do new tests soon." Vanessa, who had remained in the room throughout the consultation, stepped forward. "Doctor, I've noticed he's been more agitated recently. The new employee brought her daughter, and she's been playing a lot with Raphael. Couldn't that be harmful?" The question made Augustus frown. "On the contrary, Vanessa. It's the first time in years I've seen my son truly animated." Dr. Beatrice adjusted her glasses, pondering. A little social interaction is healthy, as long as there's no excessive physical exertion. Raphael shouldn't get too tired. His muscles can't recover properly. Understood, Doctor, Augustus said. I'll make sure he has moments of rest, but I see no problem in letting him spend time with Mari. The girl has been a blessing to this house. Vanessa pressed her lips into a thin line, clearly discontent, but said nothing more. After the doctor left, she hurried to follow Augustus to the office. Augustus, we need to talk about the girl, Vanessa insisted, closing the door behind her. We don't know this family well. What if she's a bad influence on Raphael? Augustus sighed, tired of what he considered excessive concern. Vanessa, I appreciate your dedication, but enough is enough. Mari is just a child, and she's doing my son good. For the first time in years, I see a genuine smile on his face. I'm just worried, Vanessa justified, softening her tone. You know how much I care about both of you. Since she left us, I've cared for you as if you were my family. The executive nodded, acknowledging the fundamental role Vanessa had played in the difficult years following Clara's loss. I know, and I'm grateful for that. But trust me on this one, please. Meanwhile, in Raphael's room, Mari had returned after the consultation ended. The mysterious box rested between them on the bed. How are we going to open this without the key? Raphael asked, touching the rusty padlock. Mari bit her lip, thoughtful. We could try with a hairpin. I saw that in a movie once. She removed one of the hairpins holding her braids and began to work on the padlock, concentrating. After a few frustrated attempts, she changed her strategy. I think it's too rusty to open like this, she concluded. Maybe it's better to break the padlock. Raphael looked around the room. Over there on my desk is a toolkit. My dad gave it to me to build architectural models. Mari brought the kit and found a small screwdriver and pliers. After a few minutes of effort, the padlock yielded with a snap. We did it, she exclaimed, opening the box carefully. Inside, they found a small silver locket and a bundle of yellowed letters, tied with a faded blue satin ribbon. In the locket, there was a photo of Clara, Raphael's mother, smiling radiantly with one hand resting on her pregnant belly. It's your mom, Mari whispered, handing the locket to Raphael, who took it with trembling hands. She was so beautiful, he said, his eyes welling up. I never knew her. I only have photos. Mari placed her hand on her friend's shoulder in a comforting gesture. Let's see what these letters are. Raphael carefully untied the ribbon, as if handling a fragile treasure. The letters were organized by date, all handwritten in delicate and elegant calligraphy. They're from my mom, he said, recognizing the signature at the end of the first letter. But why would they be buried in the garden? Mari picked up the first letter and began to read aloud. My dearest diary, today I completed 7 months of pregnancy. The baby is increasingly active, kicking like a little soccer player. Augustus is radiant, already preparing the room so far in advance, but something worries me. I've been feeling frequent dizziness, much more than normal for a pregnancy. Dr. Renata says it's just low blood pressure, but I'm not convinced. After the last fainting spell, I asked for additional blood tests. Mari paused, looking at Raphael, who was completely engrossed. She continued reading. The vitamins Vanessa has been bringing me have a strange metallic taste. When I mentioned this to her, she said they were special imported formulas, recommended by Dr. Richard, the new doctor Augustus hired to monitor my pregnancy in parallel with Dr. Renata. I don't trust him. There's something in his eyes that bothers me. Vanessa was giving your mom vitamins, Mari asked, surprised. Raphael seemed equally confused. I didn't know that. My dad never mentioned a Dr. Richard either. Mari picked up the next letter, dated a week later. I'm increasingly worried. Yesterday I woke up in the middle of the night and saw Vanessa in my room leaning over me. She said she was just checking if I was okay, but I'm sure she was tampering with my glass of water. Augustus thinks I'm paranoid, says the pregnancy hormones are making me anxious, but I've been keeping samples of the vitamins in an envelope hidden in my jewelry box. Something isn't right. Raphael's hands trembled as he picked up the next letter. My God, what's happening? Today I had another fainting spell, stronger than the previous ones. When I woke up, I heard Vanessa and Dr. Richard talking in the corridor. They spoke softly, but I managed to hear parts of the conversation. It's taking too long, he said. We can't increase the dose without raising suspicions, she replied. What about the baby? He asked. Acceptable side effects, was her answer. I'm terrified. They are doing something to me and my baby. Mari and Raphael exchanged looks of horror. The next letter, written in a more trembling hand, read, I no longer have doubts. I am being poisoned. I managed to send some samples of the vitamins to an independent laboratory through my cousin Lucy, the only one I trust now. The results showed the presence of muscle relaxants in small but constant doses. These substances can cross the placenta and affect the baby's motor development. I need to protect my child, but I don't know who to trust. Augustus is always busy with the company, and Vanessa controls everything in the house. I've been secretly taking activated charcoal, which Lucy brought me, to try to neutralize some of the toxins. I write these letters as a record in case something happens to me. Tears silently streamed down Raphael's face. Mari, also emotional, continued reading the last letter in the bundle. I feel like time is running out. Dr. Richard mentioned he will deliver the baby next week, even though I haven't completed 9 months. Vanessa manipulated Augustus to blindly trust this doctor. I fear what they plan to do during childbirth. If you are reading this, please help my son. Tell Augustus that Vanessa and Dr. Richard are responsible. There is proof in my jewelry box, in the false bottom, and in my personal email. The password is on the back of the photo in the locket. Please protect my baby. With love, Clara. A heavy silence fell over the room when Mari finished reading. Raphael clutched the locket tightly, as if it were his last link to his mother. My mom was poisoned, he whispered, his voice choked. And my paralysis, it wasn't an accident, Mari completed, horrified. Vanessa and this doctor did this to both of you. Raphael wiped away his tears with his shirt sleeve. We need to tell my dad. He needs to know the truth. But we have to be careful, Mari warned. If Vanessa finds out we know, it could be dangerous. She's still in the house, she still prepares your medicines. A terrible thought occurred to Raphael. My medicines? Is she still poisoning me? The vitamins I take every day. It could be, Mari agreed, her mind working quickly. That would explain why you never got better all these years. We need concrete evidence before we talk to your dad, Raphael. Turned the locket and found something engraved on the back, lucysecuremail.com, Sunflower 1984. That must be his mom's email and the password she mentioned, Mari said. We need to access that email. There might be more information there. But how? I don't have a computer in my room, and my dad's office computer is always near Vanessa, Raphael pondered. Mari thought for a moment. My mom has an old tablet she uses for recipes. We can borrow it. But where will we keep these letters in the meantime? We can't leave them here. Someone might find them. There's a secret compartment in my wheelchair, Raphael revealed. My dad had it adapted for me to keep personal things during outings. No one but us knows. Mari helped Raphael hide the letters and the locket in the hidden compartment under the wheelchair seat. They had barely finished when they heard footsteps in the corridor. Quickly, Mari hid the empty box under the bed. The door opened, and Vanessa entered with a tray containing several bottles of medication and a glass of water. Time for your medicine. Raphael, she announced with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Her gaze scanned the room with suspicion. What were you two doing? Just talking, Mari quickly replied. Raphael was showing me his architecture books. Vanessa placed the tray on the nightstand. Marianne, your mother needs help in the kitchen. You'd better go now. The tone allowed no argument. Mari gave Raphael a meaningful look before leaving. The boy stared at the colorful medicines with a new look of distrust. Something wrong, Raphael? Vanessa asked, noticing his hesitation. No, I'm just a little nauseous today, he replied, thinking quickly. I think I ate too much at lunch. Even so, you need to take your medicine. They are essential for your health, she insisted, extending the pills and the glass of water. Raphael took the medicines, but when Vanessa turned to organize the bottles, he discreetly hid the pills under his pillow, only pretending to swallow them. Good boy, Vanessa praised, taking back the glass. Rest a little now. That girl made you too agitated today. After Vanessa left, Raphael retrieved the pills from under the pillow and stored them in the same secret compartment where the letters were. He would need them as evidence. In the kitchen, Mari found her mother and Mrs. Irene preparing dinner. Ah, there you are, dear. You've been missing all afternoon, Zoe commented, cutting vegetables. I was with Raphael, Mum. He's nice, Mary replied, grabbing an apron to help. Mrs. Irene smiled. It's good to see the boy animated. It's been a long time since I saw him so lively. Mrs. Irene, did you know Raphael's mother? Mary asked casually, as she washed some carrots. The housekeeper stopped what she was doing, a distant look taking over her face. Yes, I did. Mrs. Clara was an extraordinary woman, kind, intelligent, full of life. This house was something else when she was here. Flowers everywhere, music, laughter. What exactly happened to her? Mary pressed. Zoe gave her daughter a warning look. Mary, don't be nosy. It's okay, Zoe, Irene reassured. There's no harm in talking about it. Mrs. Clara had complications during childbirth. It was very sudden. No one expected it. She was fine, and then suddenly she started having seizures. The doctors couldn't save her. Which doctors were with her? Mary asked. Irene frowned, thoughtful. Dr. Richard Fountains led the delivery, although he wasn't her original doctor. Dr. Renata, the obstetrician who accompanied her throughout the pregnancy, was traveling that day. A family emergency, if I'm not mistaken. It was all very strange. And Vanessa was there. Yes, she didn't leave her side throughout the labor. Augustus only arrived when it was too late. He was in an important meeting at the company. Irene lowered her voice. I always found it strange how Vanessa took control of everything afterwards. The house, the baby's care, even Augustus's business. As if she was waiting for that moment. Zoe interrupted the conversation. Enough of this subject. It's not appropriate. Mary, finish washing those vegetables, please. Later, when everyone had dined and retired, Mary managed to borrow her mother's tablet, claiming she wanted to read an online book. Silently, she sneaked into Raphael's room. The boy was still awake, eagerly waiting. Did you get it? Mary showed the tablet triumphantly. Let's see what's in this email. They accessed the email address and typed the password found in the locket. The inbox opened, revealing dozens of unread messages that had accumulated over the years. Look, a folder called Evidence, Raphael pointed out. Inside the folder, they found emails exchanged between Clara and her cousin Lucy, containing results of laboratory analyses of the vitamins, photos of labeled bottles, and even audio recordings. Your mom was gathering proof, Mari observed. She knew she was in danger and documented everything. In one of the emails, Clara wrote to her cousin, "If anything happens to me, give everything to Detective Edward Martin. Augustus trusts him. They worked together in the past. Don't trust anyone else, especially Vanessa. We need to find this detective," Raphael said. "He can help convince my dad." Mari continued browsing the email and found an audio recording. Playing it at a low volume, they heard Clara's voice, tense and hurried. "Lucy, I found something terrible on Vanessa's computer. She has a history of obsession with Augustus since before we met. There are photos of him everywhere, newspaper clippings, personal information. She worked at several companies where he was a client, always getting closer. And the worst, I found records of bank transfers to Dr. Richard. He's indebted up to his neck with loan sharks and agreed to help her in exchange for money. I need to confront Augustus with this tomorrow. I just hope it's not too late." The audio ended abruptly there. Mari and Raphael looked at each other, the gravity of the situation weighing on them. "It was the last recording," Mari said in a low voice. "Probably the day before childbirth." Raphael closed his eyes, fighting back tears. "Everything they ever told me was a lie. My mom was... He couldn't complete the sentence. Mari held her friend's hand tightly. "We'll get justice, Raphael. We'll find out the whole truth and make them pay for what they did." "But how?" "We're just kids," Raphael questioned, despair taking over his voice. "We have the letters, the emails, the evidence your mom gathered, and now we know the medicines you take might be the same poisons as before," Mari argued. "We need to find this detective and show him everything." A noise in the corridor made them both freeze. Quickly, Mari turned off the tablet and hid behind the door. Raphael pretended to be asleep. The door opened softly and Vanessa peeked into the room. After a few moments observing Raphael, apparently satisfied to see him sleeping, she closed the door and continued down the corridor. "That was close," Mari whispered, emerging from her hiding place. "She's watching you." "What do we do now?" Raphael asked. "I'll try to find out more about this Detective Edward Martin today," Mari planned. And we need to keep pretending we don't know anything, so as not to raise suspicions. Meanwhile, don't take any more of the medicines she gives you. Pretend to swallow, but save all of them. I'm scared of what she might do if she finds out, Raphael confessed. Marie squeezed her friend's hand. I won't let anything happen to you. I promise. The next morning, during breakfast, Augustus noticed that his son seemed different. More alert, his eyes shining with a new intensity. Did you sleep well, son? He asked, ruffling the boy's hair. Better than ever. Dad, Raphael replied, exchanging a knowing glance with Marie, who was helping to serve coffee alongside her mother. Vanessa, who was observing the scene while checking the day's agenda on her tablet, interjected, Augustus, don't forget you have the video conference with the German investors at 10. And Dr. Richard called. He wants to reschedule Raphael's appointment for tomorrow. Raphael almost dropped his juice glass when he heard the doctor's name. Marie, noticing his nervousness, quickly stepped forward to clean what had spilled on the table. Dr. Richard? Augustus questioned, frowning slightly. I thought Dr. Beatrice was Raphael's only doctor now. Dr. Richard is a specialist in neuromuscular rehabilitation, remember? Dr. Beatrice recommended him as a complement to the treatment, Vanessa explained smoothly. You yourself approved it last month. Augustus seemed confused but nodded. So of course I forgot. We have so many doctors following the case that I sometimes get lost. Raphael cast an anguished look at Marie. Dr. Richard, the same one who conspired against his mother, was still part of his medical life. For how many years had that charade continued? Dad, I don't want to go to that doctor, Raphael said suddenly. Everyone at the table was surprised by the direct statement. Augustus looked at his son, perplexed. Why, son? Any problem with Dr. Richard? I don't like him. He gives me medicines that make me dizzy and sleepy, Raphael replied, determined to start planting seeds of doubt. I prefer only Dr. Beatrice. Vanessa quickly intervened. Raphael, dear, all doctors want what's best for you. Dr. Richard is one of the best specialists in the country. Even so, I don't want to go, Raphael insisted, with a determination Augustus rarely saw in his son. All right, son, we'll reschedule for another day when you're feeling better, Augustus conceded, to Vanessa's evident displeasure. After breakfast, as Augustus prepared for the video conference in his office, Vanessa approached him, visibly annoyed. Augustus, I don't think it's wise to give in to Raphael's whims like this. Dr. Richard is fundamental to his treatment, she argued. Vanessa, my son rarely asks for anything. If he's uncomfortable with this doctor, we have to respect that, Augustus replied, adjusting his tie. Besides, in 8 years of treatment, we haven't seen significant progress. Perhaps it's time to try different approaches. The secretary paled slightly. What do you mean by different approaches? I've been researching new experimental treatments. There's a clinic in Switzerland with promising results in cases similar to Raphael's, Augustus explained. I'm considering taking Raphael there for an evaluation. Vanessa's face contorted into a mask of concern. Augustus, this is hasty. Leaving the country, interrupting the current treatment. It could be dangerous for Raphael. My mind is made up, Vanessa. I'll do whatever it takes for my son, Augustus stated firmly. Now I need to focus on the video conference. We can discuss this later. When Vanessa left the office, her normally composed face was contorted with anger. She picked up her cell phone and quickly dialed a number. Richard, we have a problem. Augustus is considering taking the boy abroad, and he refused to go to your appointment, she said in a low voice. We need to act fast. Increase the dosage. No, I don't care about the risks. We can't lose them now, not after everything we've done. Outside the office, Marie, who had come to deliver a message from Mrs. Irene, overheard the conversation. Silently, she moved away and ran to tell Raphael what she had discovered. They're desperate, Marie concluded, after relaying the conversation to her friend. Your dad is thinking of taking you abroad, and that would ruin their plans. We have to act fast, Raphael decided. Vanessa said to increase the dosage. That could be dangerous for me. I'll try to find out more about this Detective Edward Martin today, Marie promised. And we need to find a way to talk to your dad away from Vanessa. What neither of them knew was that, while they were making their plans, much more dangerous forces were moving against them. Vanessa was determined not to lose the control she had maintained for 8 years, and she was willing to do anything to maintain her dominance over the Chestnut family and the fortune that came with it. The rain fell mercilessly over Ashworth that afternoon, transforming the Chestnut Manor Gardens into a misty, melancholic landscape. Mary watched the drops stream down the kitchen window, her mind working on a plan to contact Detective Edward Martin without raising suspicion. "What are you thinking about, dear?" "You seem so distant," Zoe commented, as she organized the groceries she had just brought from the market. Mary hesitated. Her mother had always taught her to trust her own intuition, but also to be cautious. "Mom, if you discovered a very important secret, something that could help someone but could also be dangerous, what would you do?" Zoe stopped what she was doing and looked intently at her daughter. "What kind of secret are we talking about, Mari?" "A secret that explains why someone is sick," Mari replied, choosing her words carefully. "And that shows that certain people are not who they say they are." Her mother approached, drying her hands on her apron. "This has to do with Raphael, doesn't it?" Mari nodded, surprised by her mother's perceptiveness. "How did you know?" "I'm your mother. I've known that determined look of yours since you were little." Zoe sat beside her daughter. "And I also noticed how much you care about that boy. But Mari, if you've discovered something serious, you can't handle it alone. Adults need to get involved." "That's exactly what I'm trying to do," Mari explained. "We need to find a detective named Edward Martin. He worked with Mr. Augustus in the past." Zoe frowned. "Why a detective?" "Because we have proof, but we need help to show Mr. Augustus. He trusts Vanessa too much to believe us directly." Before Zoe could question further, Mrs. Irene entered the kitchen, shaking a wet umbrella. Noticing the serious conversation between mother and daughter, she hesitated. "Am I interrupting something?" "Actually, Mrs. Irene, perhaps you can help us," Mari said, deciding to trust the housekeeper. "Do you know a detective named Edward Martin, who worked with Mr. Augustus before?" Irene seemed surprised by the question. "Edward Martin? Yes, I know him. He helped Mr. Augustus years ago when there was a patent theft issue at the company." The housekeeper narrowed her eyes. "Why do you want to know about him, dear?" Mari exchanged a look with her mother before answering. "We need to talk to him. It's urgent." Irene approached, lowering her voice. "It has to do with Mrs. Clara, doesn't it? You've been asking a lot of questions about her." Mari hesitated, but decided she needed allies. "We've found something. Letters she wrote before she left us. Letters that talk about Vanessa and a doctor named Richard Fountains." Irene's face paled. "I always suspected." "From the beginning," she took a deep breath. "Edward is my cousin. I can contact him today." "Really?" Mari almost jumped out of her chair. "You'd do that for us?" "For you, for Raphael, and for Mrs. Clara's memory," Irene replied firmly. "I never bought the story of that sudden complication during childbirth, and I always found it strange that the boy never showed any improvement despite so many treatments." Zoe, who had been following the conversation with growing concern, interjected. "Wait, what exactly are we talking about?" "Irene, Mari, if you know something illegal, we need to go to the police." "We don't have enough proof yet, Mom," Mari explained. "We need the detective's help to build a solid case. If we accuse Vanessa now, she'll deny everything, and Mr. Augustus will probably believe her." Irene nodded. "The girl is right, Zoe. Vanessa has had Augustus in the palm of her hand for years. She manages everything: the house, Raphael's medicines, even his business. And meanwhile, Raphael continues to take medicines that may be poisoning him," Mari added. "My God," Zoe whispered, finally understanding the gravity of the situation. "What can we do to protect the boy until we get help?" "He's already stopped taking the medicines," Mari revealed. "He's pretending to swallow them, but he's actually saving them as evidence." Irene seemed alarmed. "That could be dangerous, dear. If he really needs some medication." His own mother wrote in the letters that the medicines contain muscle relaxants. "These are the medicines that keep him paralyzed, not a natural medical condition," Mari explained. The three remained silent for a moment, processing the monstrosity of that revelation. Finally, Irene stood up, determined. "I'll call Edward right now. And until he arrives, we need to ensure Vanessa doesn't suspect anything. Zoe, you and Mari act normally. I'll keep an eye on Vanessa and Raphael's medicines." Meanwhile, in Raphael's room, the boy was flipping through an architecture book, but his mind was far away. Since he stopped taking the medications 2 days ago, he was starting to notice small changes. The constant dizziness had decreased, and he felt more alert with a clearer mind. A soft knock on the door pulled him from his thoughts. It was Vanessa, carrying the usual tray with the afternoon medicines. "How are you feeling today, Raphael?" she asked with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "A little tired," he lied, aware that he needed to keep up appearances. "These new medicines will help," Vanessa said, handing him the colorful pills and a glass of water. Dr. Beatrice adjusted the formula. Raphael noticed there were more pills than usual, and of different colors. He remembered the conversation Mari had overheard about increasing the dosage. "There are so many," he commented, hesitant. "They're necessary, dear." "To help your muscles," Vanessa insisted, watching him intently. Raphael pretended to swallow the medicines, using a trick Mari had taught him, hiding them in his cheek and then discreetly transferring them to his hand when he drank the water. Vanessa seemed satisfied and left the room after recommending that he rest. As soon as she left, Raphael quickly put the pills in the secret compartment of his chair, along with the others he had been collecting. It was getting harder and harder to deceive her, and he feared she might start checking more closely to see if he really swallowed the medicines. In the late afternoon, the rain finally let up, leaving behind a sky laden with dark clouds. Mari found Raphael in the winter garden, a glass-enclosed space that allowed him to observe nature, even on rainy days. "We got in touch with the detective," she whispered, excited. Mrs. Irene spoke with him. "Edward Martin will come tomorrow disguised as a plumber. Apparently there's a real leak in the house that will be the perfect pretext." Raphael's eyes shone with hope. "That's great. We can show him the letters and the medicines. My mom and Mrs. Irene are on our side now," Mari told him. "So we're all working together to help you." Raphael took Mari's hand, emotional. "I've never had a friend like you, Mari. In fact, I've never had real friends. The other kids always treated me like I was different, too fragile to play with them." "You're not fragile," Mari stated with conviction. "You're the strongest person I know. And when we find out the whole truth, I bet you'll be able to do things no one believes are possible." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Augustus, who seemed more animated than in recent days. "Raphael, Mari, I have news," he announced, approaching. "I managed to schedule an appointment with Dr. Sophia Meadows, a specialist in neuroplasticity. She's in the country for a conference and agreed to see Raphael next week." "Who is she, Dad?" Raphael asked, genuinely curious. "One of the world's leading authorities in neuromotor recovery. She developed an experimental therapy that has helped people with conditions similar to yours to partially regain movement," Augustus explained, his eyes shining with hope. "I didn't want to tell you until I was sure, but now that the appointment is confirmed..." Raphael and Mari exchanged meaningful glances. The timing couldn't be better. If they could expose Vanessa before the appointment, Dr. Sophia could be instrumental in Raphael's true treatment. "That's amazing, Dad," Raphael said, genuinely emotional. "Vanessa wasn't very enthusiastic about the idea," Augustus commented, frowning slightly. "She thinks it's hasty to interrupt your current treatment to try something experimental. But I think we should explore all possibilities. And you're right," Mari affirmed enthusiastically. "New approaches are always important." Augustus smiled at the girl. "You've been a blessing to this house. Mari, since you arrived, I've seen my son happier, more alive. She's my best friend." "Dad," Raphael said simply. The executive nodded, visibly emotional. "Well, I'll let you continue your conversation. I have some calls to make about that appointment." When Augustus left, Mari turned to Raphael, animated. "This is perfect. Your dad is already questioning the current treatment. It will be easier to convince him when we show the evidence." "We need to be careful, Mari," Raphael warned. "Vanessa realized my dad is changing, and that makes her dangerous. I heard her talking on the phone earlier today, very nervous. She mentioned something about extreme measures if necessary." A shiver ran down Mari's spine. "Don't worry. Tomorrow the detective will be here, and we'll have professional help." That night, while everyone slept, Vanessa silently entered the mansion's laboratory, a space Augustus had built years ago to test new drug formulations for his company. With gloves on her hands, she opened a small safe hidden behind a bookshelf and removed several bottles labeled only with numbers. Working with meticulous precision, Vanessa mixed substances, occasionally consulting a notebook. Her face was tense, concentrated, like someone performing a familiar yet risky task. "I have no choice," she murmured to herself. "Not after everything I've done to get here." The next morning, the manor was awakened by the sound of a vehicle parking. A middle-aged man, wearing work overalls and carrying a toolbox, was greeted by Mrs. Irene at the main entrance. "He's the plumber to check that leak in the upstairs bathroom," she explained to Vanessa, who immediately appeared, always vigilant about who entered the house. "I wasn't informed about any plumber," Vanessa said. "Suspicious. I called yesterday afternoon when the ceiling started to show damp spots," Irene replied naturally. "I didn't want to bother the master with household problems." Vanessa examined the man from head to toe. Edward Martin maintained a neutral, professional expression, but his experienced eyes already registered every detail of the environment. "I'll accompany you to the leak," Vanessa offered. "That won't be necessary," Irene quickly interjected. "I know the house well. I can show you the way. You have that important video conference to organize, don't you?" Vanessa hesitated, clearly reluctant to let a stranger move freely through the manor, but the reminder of her professional duties put her in a difficult position. "All right, but inform me when the service is complete," she finally conceded, retreating towards the office. As soon as they were alone, Irene guided Edward to the second floor, explaining the situation in a low voice. "The children are in Raphael's room. Vanessa is busy with a video conference for at least an hour. Augustus left for a company meeting and won't be back until the afternoon." Edward nodded, his demeanor changing to a more serious and professional expression. "Tell me more about this evidence you mentioned on the phone." "It's better for the children to explain directly," Irene replied, gently knocking on Raphael's bedroom door. Mary opened the door, her face lighting up at the sight of the detective. "Mr. Edward, I'm glad you came." The room had been prepared for the impromptu meeting. Raphael was in his wheelchair, near the window, and on the bed were arranged in chronological order Clara's letters, printouts of emails, the locket, and the pills Raphael had been collecting, separated by day and time in small plastic bags. Edward Martin examined the children for a moment before speaking. "Irene told me the basics of the situation, but I need to hear from you. What exactly are your suspicions?" Raphael spoke, his voice firm despite the emotion consuming him. "We believe that Vanessa, my dad's secretary, and Dr. Richard Fountains conspired to poison my mother during her pregnancy, using muscle relaxants that affected my motor development, and that since then I have been kept in a state of induced paralysis through the medications they give me daily." Edward's expression remained professional, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of shock. "Those are very serious accusations. Let's analyze the evidence you have." For the next 40 minutes, the detective meticulously examined each item, making notes, photographing documents with a discreet camera, and listening intently as Mari and Raphael explained each discovery. Irene remained at the door, watching the corridor. "Are these letters authentic?" Edward asked, examining the handwriting. "You can compare them with other documents written by Mrs. Clara," Irene suggested. "I've kept birthday cards she gave me." Edward studied the pills collected by Raphael. "We'll need to analyze them in a lab to confirm what they contain. I have contacts who can do this discreetly." "What do you think, Mr. Edward?" Mari asked anxiously. "Do we have enough evidence?" The detective pondered for a moment. "There are very convincing elements here. The letters, the emails, the audio recording. Together, they form a quite incriminating picture. But we need more for a solid legal case, especially since we are dealing with powerful and influential people." "What kind of proof do we still need?" Raphael questioned. "Ideally, a confession or direct evidence that Vanessa or Dr. Richard are tampering with your current medications," Edward explained. "We would also need a toxicological analysis proving the presence of the suspicious substances." "And how do we get that?" Mari asked. Edward considered the question. "I'll install discrete surveillance equipment at strategic points in the house, especially where the medications are stored and prepared. We also need samples of the original medicines before they reach your hands, Raphael, to compare with what you should be receiving. Vanessa keeps the main medications in a locked cabinet in the basement laboratory," Irene informed him. "She always says it's for temperature control, but she never allowed anyone but herself to access the place. "Interesting," Edward murmured. "I'll need to take a look at that laboratory." At that moment, Mrs. Irene gave an alert signal from the door. "Vanessa is coming down the corridor." Quickly, everyone helped gather the evidence, hiding it in the secret compartment of Raphael's chair. Edward grabbed his tools and positioned himself near the adjacent bathroom sink, pretending to work on the plumbing. Seconds later, Vanessa knocked on the door and entered without waiting for a response. Her eyes scanned the room, assessing the situation. "What's going on here?" she asked with a forced smile. "Family meeting?" "The plumber is checking a leak in the bathroom," Irene explained naturally. "And the children were just talking." Vanessa approached the bathroom and watched Edward working. "Did you find the problem?" "Yes, Mom," he replied without turning around. "Compromised pipe seal. Nothing that can't be fixed." Apparently satisfied, Vanessa turned her attention to Raphael. "It's time for your morning medication." "I'll go get it." "No need to bother," Irene interjected. "I can do that while you finish preparing the documentation for Mr. Augustus's meeting." A flicker of irritation crossed Vanessa's face. "I prefer to do it myself, Irene. Raphael's medications require specific handling." When Vanessa left, Edward emerged from the bathroom, his face serious. "She is clearly controlling regarding the medications. This corroborates your suspicions. What do we do now?" Raphael asked anxiously. "I'll install miniaturized cameras at strategic points," Edward decided. "And we need to get samples of the original medications. Raphael, continue pretending to take the medicines, but be very careful. If she gets suspicious, she might change tactics. Wouldn't it be better to just tell my dad everything?" Edward considered the question. "Not yet. Without definitive proof, it would be your word against hers, and from what I understand, your father trusts Vanessa very much." "It's true," Irene confirmed. "She's been his right hand for years. Without concrete evidence, he might not believe it." "I'll install the surveillance equipment today," Edward decided, "and I'll return tomorrow to collect the first recordings. In the meantime, act normally and keep in touch with me through this secure phone." He handed Mari a simple prepaid cell phone. "My number is already saved. Use it only in case of emergency." When Vanessa returned with the medications, she found only Raphael and Mari in the room. The detective and Irene had discreetly left to check other rooms in the house. "Here you go, Raphael," she said, handing him the pills and a glass of water. "I included a new supplement that Dr. Beatrice recommended. It will help strengthen your bones." Raphael noticed a blue pill he had never seen before. He exchanged a quick glance with Mari before performing his familiar ritual of pretending to swallow the medications. "Good boy," Vanessa approved. "Now, how about you rest a little?" "You seem agitated today." "I'm fine," Raphael insisted. "Mari and I were planning to go to the garden later." "I'm afraid that won't be possible," Vanessa replied softly. "It's going to rain again, and besides, Dr. Beatrice recommended extra rest due to the new medication." Mari noticed the strategy. Vanessa was trying to isolate Raphael. "I can stay here with him then. We can play that board game." "Actually, Marianne, your mother was looking for you," Vanessa lied. "Something about helping her with kitchen chores." Reluctantly, Mari left, casting a final reassuring look at Raphael. In the corridor, she found Edward, who was working on an electrical panel. "She's trying to separate us," Mari whispered, "and she gave him a new medicine today." "Keep the pill with the others," Edward instructed discreetly. "And don't worry, I've already installed 2 cameras, one in the corridor and one in the laboratory." Mari nodded and headed to the kitchen, her mind working furiously. The sense of urgency grew with each hour. Something told her that Vanessa was becoming more dangerous, pressured by Augustus's interest in new treatments and Raphael's growing independence. What neither of them knew was that, at that exact moment, Vanessa was talking on the phone with Dr. Richard in her room. The door locked and her voice kept to a controlled whisper. "I don't like what's happening here, Richard. Augustus is questioning the treatment. There's a suspicious plumber around the house, and the boy, he's different, more alert." "Is he taking the medication regularly?" the doctor questioned. "Apparently yes, but something tells me he might be faking it," she replied, paranoia growing in her voice. "And there's this girl, the new cook's daughter. She's always with him, asking questions, exploring the house." "Perhaps it's time to take more definitive measures, Vanessa," Richard suggested in a dark tone. "The Swiss treatment Augustus mentioned could expose everything. Real doctors, independent test, I know, she hissed. I've already started implementing our contingency plan. The new pill I gave Raphael today will make him more docile, less resistant. And as for Augustus, be careful what you say on the phone, Richard warned. We'll meet tonight at the usual place. We need to finalize the details. Upon hanging up, Vanessa opened a secret drawer in her desk and took out a small unlabeled vial containing a transparent liquid. Her gaze was cold, calculating, like someone who had already crossed all moral boundaries and would not hesitate to go even further. No one is going to take what is rightfully mine, she murmured to herself, putting the vial in her purse. The storm brewing over Chestnut Manor was not just the tempest announced by the dark clouds gathering again in the sky. It was a storm of revelations, secrets, and dangers that threatened to destroy or liberate everyone involved. Night fell over Chestnut Manor, bringing with it a persistent rain that turned the gardens into small lakes and made the windows vibrate with the impact of heavy drops. Inside the house, an uneasy silence hung, broken only by the occasional clap of thunder. In Raphael's room, Marie watched her friend with growing concern. After taking, or rather pretending to take, the new blue medicine Vanessa had given him, the boy began to show strange symptoms. His eyelids were heavy, his speech was slightly slurred, and his reflexes seemed even slower than usual. Are you okay? Marie whispered, holding her friend's hand. You seem different. Raphael struggled to keep his eyes open. I think that blue medicine must have gotten a little into my mouth when I pretended to swallow, he confessed with difficulty. I feel so tired. The room door opened and Zoe entered silently, carrying a tray with tea. Seeing Raphael's state, the woman's expression changed to alarm. What happened to him? She asked in a low voice, approaching the bed. The new medicine, Marie explained. He accidentally swallowed a little when he was pretending to take it. Zoe placed her hand on the boy's forehead. He doesn't seem to have a fever, but his eyes are strange. His pupils are dilated. I think it's some kind of sedative, Raphael murmured, struggling to articulate the words. They want to make me more controllable. Zoe and Marie exchanged worried glances. We should call your dad, the cook suggested. No, Raphael interjected with effort. Vanessa is with him in the office. If he comes, she'll come too. I'll call Mrs. Irene then, Zoe decided. She'll know what to do. As Zoe left in search of the housekeeper, Marie took out the cell phone Edward had given her and sent a quick message explaining the situation. The answer came almost immediately. Keep him awake. I'm on my way with a trusted doctor. Don't let Vanessa know. The detective is coming, Marie informed, putting away the cell phone. With a doctor, Raphael nodded slowly. Marie, I'm scared. What if they find out we know? They won't find out, Marie assured, squeezing her friend's hand. And even if they do, we're not alone in this anymore. We have allies now. In the office, Augustus reviewed some documents while Vanessa stood beside him, pointing out important details in a contract. The closeness between them was calculated. A subtle touch on his shoulder, her carefully chosen perfume, the studied inclination that placed her in his field of vision. This agreement with the Swiss laboratory might be hasty, Augustus, Vanessa argued. I understand your anxiety to help Raphael, but interrupting the current treatment for an experimental therapy. Augustus sighed, rubbing his tired eyes. Vanessa, I appreciate your concern, but I've made my decision. 8 years without significant progress is too long. I can't stand by and watch my son confined to that chair without trying every possibility. What if there are risks? Unpredictable side effects, she insisted. There are risks in any treatment, Augustus replied firmly. But Dr. Sophia has documented cases of success. Patients who regained movements believed lost forever. Vanessa bit her lip, containing her frustration. I only worry about you both. After so many years caring for Raphael, it's as if he were... She hesitated, calculating the effect of her next words. As if he were my own son. Augustus stared at her, surprised by the emotional declaration, something rare from the always controlled Vanessa. I know how much you care about us, and I'm eternally grateful for that, especially after Clara. The mention of his deceased wife created a moment of silence. Vanessa carefully observed Augustus's reaction, noting the familiar shadow of pain that crossed his face. You never truly got over it, did you? she asked softly, moving closer. How could I? He replied, his voice laden with emotion. She was everything to me. And then, with Raphael's condition, it was like losing everything at once. Not everything, Vanessa whispered, placing her hand over his. You still have Raphael. And you have me. I've always been here, Augustus. All these years. The executive seemed uncomfortable with the turn of the conversation, but before he could respond, knocks on the door interrupted the moment. It was Mrs. Irene with an expression of genuine concern. Excuse me for interrupting, Master, but I need to speak with you. It's about Raphael. Augustus immediately stood up, alarmed. What happened? Is he okay? Qu'est-ce c'est? He's a little strange, sir. Very sleepy, with slurred speech. It started after he took his afternoon medicines. Vanessa quickly intervened. It must just be a side effect of the new supplement. Dr. Beatrice mentioned it could cause drowsiness. Even so, I'd like to see him, Augustus decided, already heading for the door. Vanessa followed him, her mind working quickly to manage the situation. She hadn't expected the sedative's effects to be so evident, or for anyone to notice so quickly. When they arrived at Raphael's room, they found not only Mary and Zoe, but also Edward Martin, no longer in his plumber's disguise, accompanied by a middle-aged woman who was examining Raphael. What's going on here? Augustus asked, confused. Who are these people? Edward stepped forward, extending his hand. Mr. Chestnut, I'm Edward Martin, a private detective. We met years ago, during the patent theft case at your company. Augustus shook his hand automatically, still processing the situation. Yes, I remember you. But what are you doing here? And who is this lady examining my son? This is Dr. Louisa Fields, a forensic toxicologist, Edward introduced. And we're here because there's evidence that your son is being deliberately medicated with inappropriate substances. Vanessa visibly paled. This is absurd. Who authorized these people to enter? I called them, Mrs. Irene interjected firmly. For Raphael. For Mrs. Clara. For Clara? Augustus repeated, increasingly confused. What does my deceased wife have to do with this? Edward looked at Mary, who nodded and went to Raphael's wheelchair, opening the secret compartment and taking out the bundle of letters. Mr. Augustus, the girl said with a maturity that surprised everyone, we found something buried in the garden. Something your wife left before she left us. Augustus took the letters with trembling hands, immediately recognizing Clara's handwriting. His face changed with each line he read, transitioning from confusion to shock and finally to a rage that few had witnessed in that usually restrained man. Vanessa watched the scene with growing despair. Her eyes moved quickly between the available exits, calculating possibilities. When she saw Augustus reach the last letter, she made a decision. They're forgeries, she exclaimed. Obviously fabricated to incriminate me. Probably the work of this nosy girl and her mother. Augustus, you've known me for years. Do you really think I'd be capable of something so monstrous? I don't know what to think anymore, Vanessa, Augustus replied, his voice dangerously controlled. But it's not just the letters. Raphael has been saving the medicines he was supposed to be taking. Dr. Fields has already done preliminary tests. The doctor stood up, adopting a professional posture. The pills contain a combination of muscle relaxants in sub-therapeutic doses, enough to cause chronic muscle weakness, but not to relieve spasms. Furthermore, the new blue pill contains a potent sedative, normally used in surgical procedures. This is complete nonsense, Vanessa stammered. They're trying to frame me. We also installed surveillance cameras, Edward added, holding a tablet. We recorded you in the laboratory last night, tampering with medications and talking on the phone with Dr. Richard about a contingency plan. Vanessa looked around, like a cornered animal. Her eyes finally landed on Raphael, who watched her with a mixture of fear and determination despite his semi-conscious state. You, she hissed, taking a step towards the boy. You should have stayed quiet, taking your medicine like a good boy. Everything was perfect until this girl showed up and started poking her nose where it didn't belong. Augustus protectively stepped between Vanessa and his son. So it's true, he said, his voice choked with emotion. You really did this to my son, to Clara? Something in Vanessa's gaze shifted. The mask of denial fell, revealing a cold and calculating expression. She didn't deserve you, Augustus. Never did. I was by your side for years before she showed up, with her perfect smile and traditional family. I built your company with you. I dedicated my life to you." The confession shocked everyone in the room. Augustus seemed to have taken a physical blow, staggering slightly. "Why?" he asked, his voice almost inaudible. "Why do that to an innocent baby? It wasn't supposed to be like that," Vanessa replied, her tone now almost contemplative. "It was just to weaken Clara during her pregnancy, make her seem fragile, dependent on care. And then, during childbirth, a small accident, nothing to raise suspicion. But she found out. She found the evidence, started taking antidotes. And the boy," she looked at Raphael with contempt, "he survived but with damage, a constant reminder of her. So you kept drugging my son for 8 years?" Augustus's voice trembled with fury. "Keeping him confined to a wheelchair?" "It was necessary," Vanessa justified coldly. "If he improved, it would raise questions. Questions that could lead me to prison. Besides, as long as he was sick, you would need me. I would be indispensable." The explicit confession shocked everyone in the room. Edward made a discreet gesture, and 2 men waiting in the corridor entered, plainclothes police officers. "Vanessa Rivers, you are under arrest for attempted murder, administration of harmful substances, and various other crimes," one of them announced, stepping forward with handcuffs. In a quick and desperate move, Vanessa pulled the vial of transparent liquid she had prepared from her purse. "Don't come closer!" she screamed, uncorking the vial, "or I'll make sure the boy never moves again." Augustus froze, horrified by the threat. Edward, however, remained calm. "Think carefully, Vanessa. The situation is already lost. Adding another crime will only increase your sentence. What difference does it make?" She laughed hysterically. "I'm already guilty of killing Clara Chestnut. That would get me life in prison anyway." Mari, who was watching the scene with wide eyes, had a sudden inspiration. Slowly, without drawing attention, she approached Raphael's wheelchair. "Will it work?" she whispered into her friend's ear. Raphael, still fighting the sedative, immediately understood what Mari intended. "Maybe it's worth trying." While all the adults were focused on the confrontation with Vanessa, Mari discreetly unlocked the wheelchair's brakes. With a swift movement, she pushed the chair forward, hitting Vanessa's legs and making her lose her balance. The vial flew from her hands and was skillfully caught by Edward, who had moved, anticipating the girl's action. Simultaneously, the police immobilized Vanessa, who screamed obscenities as she was handcuffed. "You'll regret this, girl," Vanessa yelled as she was dragged out. "And you too, Raphael. Do you think Dr. Richard won't continue what we started? He has as much to lose as I do." "Dr. Richard is also being arrested right now," Edward calmly informed them. "His phone line has been tapped for days. We have all the necessary evidence against both of you." When Vanessa was finally removed from the house, a heavy silence fell over the room. Augustus was on his knees beside Raphael's chair, hugging his son tightly, tears streaming freely down his face. "Forgive me," he sobbed. "Forgive me for not realizing, for not protecting you and your mother." "It wasn't your fault, Dad," Raphael replied, his voice firmer now that adrenaline was combating the sedative's effects. "She fooled everyone," Mari timidly approached. "Mr. Augustus, there's one more thing you need to see." She handed him the locket with Clara's photo and the email address written on the back. "Your wife left all the evidence organized. She fought until the end to protect Raphael." Augustus took the locket with reverence, opening it to see the smiling face of his beloved Clara. "She was always stronger than me," he murmured. "Even in the end, she found a way to protect us." Dr. Fields, who had remained silent during the confrontation, approached. "Mr. Chestnut, we need to take Raphael to the hospital immediately for detoxification. The cumulative effects of these medications can be serious, and the sedative he received today requires monitoring." "Of course, Doctor," Augustus agreed, returning to reality. "We'll do everything necessary. The important thing now is to detoxify his system," the doctor explained, "and then to assess his true neuromotor state without the influence of these drugs." "Do you think he might regain movement?" Augustus asked, hope shining in his voice. The doctor chose her words carefully. "It's impossible to predict at this moment. Neuromotor development was compromised during a critical phase, but the human brain has remarkable plasticity, especially in young people. What I can guarantee is that, free of these drugs, Raphael will have the real chance he never had before. Mari, who had been holding Raphael's hand throughout the conversation, felt a slight squeeze, stronger than any response her friend had managed to give until then. "I felt that," she exclaimed, looking at Raphael's hand. "You squeezed my hand." Everyone turned to Raphael, who was concentrating, sweat beading on his forehead with the effort. Slowly, visibly, his fingers closed again around Mari's, in a deliberate movement that would have been impossible under the full effect of the muscle relaxants. "My God," Augustus whispered, amazed. "It's starting to work. Just a few days without the medicines and there's already a difference," Dr. Fields observed with scientific interest. "This is an excellent sign. It suggests there's no permanent structural damage, just chemical suppression of function." As an ambulance was called to transport Raphael to the hospital, Augustus approached Mari, who was watching the paramedics prepare her friend for transport. "Mari," he said, kneeling to be at the girl's height, "I don't know how to thank you for what you did. You saved my son." The girl smiled, embarrassed by the recognition. "I just followed my intuition, Mr. Augustus. I always knew there was something wrong with how everyone treated Raphael, as if he could never get better." "Your intuition saved more than you imagine," Augustus replied, emotional. "It brought justice for Clara and hope for Raphael. And for me, it gave me back the life that had been stolen 8 years ago." Zoe approached, placing her hands on her daughter's shoulders with pride. "She always had that gift. She sees things others don't. And that's why," Augustus continued, looking from Zoe to Mari, "I'd like to ask both of you to become a permanent part of this family, not as employees but as true members. Raphael will need Mari during his recovery, and I think we all need to rebuild our lives together." Zoe, emotional, couldn't respond immediately. It was Mari who spoke. "We'd love to, Mr. Augustus, but with one condition." She looked at Raphael, who was being placed on the stretcher. "I want to be by his side every step of his recovery. I promised I'd be there when he managed to stand for the first time." Augustus smiled, for the first time in years feeling genuine happiness. "It's a deal. You are family now." As the ambulance left, taking Raphael and Augustus to the hospital, Mari stood looking out the manor window, the rain finally giving way to a sky that was beginning to clear. "Mom," she said thoughtfully, "do you think Raphael will ever walk again?" Zoe hugged her daughter's shoulders. "If there's anyone capable of making that happen, it's you, my daughter. You've already achieved the impossible. And I'm sure we'll see many more miracles in this house." On the horizon, a rainbow began to form, shining over the abandoned gardens of Chestnut Manor, gardens that, Mari had already decided, would be replanted with the roses Clara had loved so much, as a symbol of the rebirth of that family beginning to heal. 3 months had passed since Raphael's treatment began. Winter was showing its first signs of departure in Ashworth, with mornings still cold, but progressively milder afternoons announcing the proximity of spring. Chestnut Manor, once a dark and silent place, now pulsed with new energy. The room that had once been the laboratory where Vanessa manipulated medications had been completely renovated and transformed into a modern physical therapy room, equipped with the most advanced neuromotor rehabilitation devices money could buy. Raphael, now newly 9 years old, lay on a special mat, his face contorted in an expression of concentration and effort as Dr. Matthew guided his exercises. 5 more repetitions. Raphael, the physical therapist, encouraged, holding the boy's ankle as he tried to flex his right knee against the resistance of an elastic band. "You're doing very well." Sweat dripped down Raphael's forehead, but his eyes shone with determination. The difference in his body after 3 months was visible. Muscles, once flaccid from forced disuse, were beginning to gain tone. His seated posture was more upright, and, most impressively, he could move both legs deliberately, albeit with significant limitations. 1, 2, 3, Dr. Matthew counted. "That's it! You got all 5 complete today! It's a new record." Raphael collapsed onto the mat, exhausted but radiant. "I'm feeling stronger today," he commented between gasps, "and less tremor." "The electromyograph data confirms it," the doctor agreed, showing a tablet with colorful graphs. "Nerve conduction quality has improved by 17% since the last measurement." Murray, who watched the session sitting on a nearby stool, clapped enthusiastically. "I told you you'd exceed all expectations." In these 3 months, Mari had not left Raphael's side for a single day. She was present at every physical therapy session, every doctor's appointment, every moment of frustration, and every small victory. Together, they had developed a system of complementary exercises they performed in their free time. Adapted games Mari invented to make rehabilitation less tedious and more fun. Dr. Sophia should arrive in an hour for the quarterly evaluation, Dr. Matthew reminded them, helping Raphael sit up. "We'll take a short break and then test the chair." Raphael's eyes lit up at the mention of the chair, not the motorized wheelchair that had confined him for years, but the new smart chair developed by Dr. Sophia's team. It was a hybrid between a wheelchair and a walker, equipped with sensors that detected the slightest intentions of movement and assisted the user without completely replacing their effort. The idea was to allow Raphael to use the strength he was regaining without overworking still developing muscles. "You'll be able to walk with it today, I'm sure," Mari stated with conviction, handing her friend a bottle of water. Augustus entered the room at that moment, carrying a folder of documents. In recent months, he had completely reorganized his life to be present in his son's recovery. He had sold part of his companies, retaining only controlling interest in the main pharmaceutical company, and delegated daily management to trusted executives. His focus now was the family he was rebuilding. "How was today's session?" he asked, affectionately ruffling his son's hair. "The best day yet," Dr. Matthew replied with a smile. "The response to stimuli is exceeding our initial projections." Augustus didn't hide his pride. "That's my champion." Turning to Mari, he added, "Your mother is making that chocolate cake you both love so much. She said it's to celebrate the end of the first phase of treatment." "Yay!" the children exclaimed in unison. After the short break, Raphael was positioned in the smart chair. Unlike previous models he had tested, this version had lighter side supports and allowed him to control direction and speed with minimal trunk movements. "Remember," Dr. Matthew instructed, "the chair amplifies your movements, but doesn't produce them for you. The more you use your own muscles, the more the system automatically reduces assistance." Raphael nodded, concentrating on the task. With visible effort, he propelled the chair forward using a combination of trunk movements and leg pressure on the special supports. The chair moved smoothly. "I'm doing it! I'm controlling it!" he exclaimed, marveling at the feeling of autonomy. For 15 minutes, Raphael practiced maneuvers around the room, the smart chair responding to his commands with increasing precision as he gained confidence. Mari walked alongside, cheering every step of the way, while Augustus watched with barely suppressed tears. "Dad, look at this," Raphael called, executing a perfect turn around a set of colorful cones on the floor. "I can go faster now." "Amazing, son. You're mastering this equipment like a pro." When Dr. Sophia arrived for the quarterly evaluation, she found an exultant Raphael, demonstrating his new skills with the smart chair. "I see someone is adapting very well to the new technology," she commented with a satisfied smile, placing her briefcase on a table. The evaluation lasted almost 2 hours. Detailed tests of muscle strength, reflexes, proprioception, balance, and motor coordination were performed. Blood samples were collected to analyze neural biomarkers, and Raphael was subjected to a series of motor challenges to assess his progress. Finally, the team gathered in the Manor's library, temporarily transformed into a conference room. Dr. Sophia connected her tablet to a projector, displaying comparative graphs and scan images. "The results are extremely promising," she began, looking at Augustus, Raphael, and Mari, who had insisted on participating. "In just 3 months, Raphael has recovered approximately 35% of lower limb motor function and 60% of upper limb motor function. Nerve conduction has improved significantly, and MRI scans show increased activity in the motor areas of the cerebral cortex." "That's good, isn't it?" Mari asked, analyzing the colorful graphs with interest. "It's exceptional," Sophia confirmed. "To be honest, we're seeing results that we would normally only expect after 6 to 8 months of treatment." Augustus leaned forward in his chair. "To what do you attribute this accelerated progress?" "Several factors," the doctor explained. "First, Raphael's age. A young brain has extraordinary plasticity. Second, the fact that technically, we are not rebuilding destroyed connections, but rather awakening pathways that were chemically suppressed before they could fully develop. Third, she paused significantly, the protective action Clara provided during pregnancy seems to have been more effective than we imagined. The scans show that the basic neural structures are intact, just underdeveloped. And the fourth factor, Dr. Matthew added with a smile, is this young warrior's determination and his friend's constant support. I've never seen a patient so dedicated to exercises or so positive in the face of challenges. Raphael smiled, embarrassed by the compliment, while Mari merely shrugged, as if it were obvious that they would do everything to overcome the situation. And now, what are the next steps? Augustus asked. Dr. Sophia advanced to the next slide of her presentation. We are ready to begin phase 2 of the protocol. This involves the introduction of the pro-neuroplasticity medications I developed in my laboratory. These are compounds that stimulate the formation of new synapses and strengthen existing neural pathways. She showed images of small blue-green capsules. These medications are experimental, but have already been tested in clinical trials with very promising results. The main active component is derived from an Amazonian plant, combined with synthetic neuropeptides that direct their action specifically to the motor areas of the brain. Are there side effects? Mari asked, surprising everyone with her perceptiveness. A very pertinent question, Sophia praised. Yes, there are some possible side effects. Initial drowsiness, headaches, occasionally a slight tremor, but they are generally transient and well tolerated. We will monitor Raphael daily for any adverse reactions. What about physical therapy? Augustus questioned. We will intensify the sessions, Dr. Matthew replied. With the introduction of the new medications, the brain will be more receptive to motor learning. We need to take advantage of this window of opportunity with more challenging exercises. Raphael, who had listened attentively, raised his hand as he did in school. Dr. Sophia, I have a question. When will I be able to try to stand? Without the chair, I mean. An expectant silence fell over the room. It was the first time Raphael had so directly verbalized this specific goal. Sophia considered carefully before answering. If progress continues at this rate, I believe we can begin orthostasis training, standing, in approximately 6 weeks, initially with full support, then gradually reducing assistance. Raphael's eyes shone with a mixture of emotion and determination. 6 weeks, he repeated, as if making a pact with himself. But I need you to understand something important, Raphael, Sophia continued, her tone gentle but firm. Standing is just one step. Walking involves a much more complex set of skills. Dynamic balance, weight transfer, sequential coordination. I don't want to create false expectations. I understand, Raphael nodded seriously. One step at a time, literally. Mari, sitting next to her friend, squeezed his hand discreetly. The gesture did not go unnoticed by Augustus, who smiled at the special bond between the children. After the meeting, while the adults discussed technical details of the new protocol, Mari and Raphael slipped out to the garden. In recent months, with the help of Mrs. Irene and Zoe, they had begun revitalizing the abandoned flower beds. The first roses, planted in Clara's honor, were beginning to bloom, bringing splashes of color to the previously neglected space. Raphael maneuvered his smart chair with increasing dexterity to the specific spot where they had found the box with the letters. I promised myself that one day I would come here on my own 2 feet, he commented, looking at the bed of red roses that now bloomed exactly where the box had been buried. And you will keep that promise, Mari affirmed with her usual conviction. But until then, look how much you've already achieved. 3 months ago, you could barely move your fingers voluntarily. Raphael smiled, contemplating the garden that was being reborn. You know what else makes me happy? It's not just the possibility of walking one day. It's discovering that my mum fought for me until the end. That she loved me so much that she found a way to protect me even when she could no longer be here. Mari sat on a nearby bench, next to Raphael's chair. Your mom was a hero, and I bet she's very proud of you now. Do you really think so? I'm sure, Mari replied seriously. By the way, I have something to show you. She took a small handmade photo album from her backpack. I made this in the last few weeks. They are photos of your progress since the beginning of treatment. Raphael took the album, flipping through it with growing emotion. Mari had documented every important milestone: the first day with the electrical stimulation equipment, the first time he could voluntarily move his foot, the day he held a glass without trembling, his expression of joy when testing the smart chair for the first time. "Mari, this is amazing," he whispered. His voice choked. "And there's room for many more photos," she explained, pointing to the blank pages at the end of the album. "Here we'll document your first day standing. And here," she turned a few more pages, "I saved a special space for when you take your first steps." Raphael closed the album, unable to contain his emotion. "Thank you for believing in me when I didn't even believe in myself." "Always," Mari replied simply. A few hours later, the family gathered for a special dinner, celebrating the end of the first phase of treatment. The dining room table, which had not seen festive meals in a long time, was decorated with flowers from the garden and scented candles. Augustus raised a glass of juice in solidarity with the children. Everyone drank grape juice and proposed a toast to courage, to persistence, and to hope. "And to all of you who became our family when we needed it most." To family, everyone responded in unison. As they enjoyed the delicious dinner prepared by Zoe, Augustus made an important announcement. "I've been talking with Dr. Sophia about a project." He began, capturing everyone's attention. "I decided to create a foundation in Clara's name, dedicated to neuroplasticity research and the treatment of children with motor challenges similar to Raphael's." "Dad, that's wonderful," Raphael exclaimed, enthusiastic. "The idea is to establish a complete rehabilitation center right here in Ashworth, with the most advanced equipment and treatment scholarships for families who cannot afford the costs," Augustus continued. "Dr. Sophia will be the medical director. And there's more," he added, turning to Mari. "Inspired by your ideas about accessible spaces, Raphael, the center will have an inclusive architecture department. After all, rehabilitation is not just about adapting people to the world, but also about adapting the world to people." Raphael's eyes shone with the possibility. In recent months, while his body recovered, his mind had not been idle. The architectural drawings that were once just a hobby had become a passion, especially after receiving Mari's book on accessible architecture. "Could I help plan it?" he asked shyly. "Actually, I was counting on it," Augustus confirmed with a smile. "No one better than you to understand what really makes a difference." The evening continued, with animated conversations and plans for the future. When everyone finally retired, Augustus found a moment to talk alone with Zoe on the veranda. "I never adequately thanked you for everything you and Mari have done for us," he said, observing the stars in the clear Ashworth sky. "There's no need." "Augustus," Zoe replied simply, "family doesn't need thanks." "It's true, and that's what we are now, aren't we? An unlikely family, united by the strangest circumstances, but still a family." Zoe smiled, contemplating the manor that now seemed so much more alive and welcoming. "Sometimes the families we form are stronger than the ones we're born into." In Raphael's room, Mari helped her friend with his nightly exercises, a series of stretches Dr. Matthew had recommended to prevent contractures during sleep. "I'm nervous about this new medicine tomorrow," Raphael confessed, as Mari assisted in stretching his left leg. "Why?" Dr. Sophia assured it's safe. "It's not that. It's just," he hesitated, "what if it doesn't work? What if I'm one of the cases that don't respond well to treatment?" Mari stopped the exercise and looked at her friend seriously. Raphael Chestnut listened carefully. "Your body is already proving it can recover far beyond what doctors predicted. You've already beaten the odds so far. Why would you stop now?" "You always know what to say," Raphael laughed. "It's my superpower," Mari replied with a wink. "Now let's finish these exercises so you can rest. Tomorrow begins a new phase of your journey." As Mari left the room after completing their exercise routine, Raphael called her one last time. "Mari?" "Yes?" "Thank you for digging that hole in the garden that day." She smiled, understanding the depth of that simple thank you. "I just followed my intuition. And I always will, especially when it comes to you." That night, Raphael slept with a smile on his lips and dreamed of something he hadn't dreamed of in a long time. He was running through the garden, his legs strong and agile, chasing butterflies among beds of red roses. And in his dream, A woman with dark hair and green eyes, his mother, watched smiling as he demonstrated how far he could go. Spring in Ashworth was in full bloom. The Chestnut Manor garden, completely transformed over the past 6 months, displayed an explosion of colors that rivaled the city's most beautiful parks. The roses especially dominated the landscape, hundreds of them in different varieties and shades, meticulously planted by Zoe, Mari, and Raphael in homage to Clara's memory. On the main veranda, an empty chair waited patiently. It was Raphael's old motorized wheelchair, now rarely used. Beside it, leaning against the wall, were 2 colorful crutches, decorated with stickers and drawings made by Mari. Inside the house, in the physical therapy room, a historic moment was about to happen. Raphael, now 9 years and 3 months old, was positioned between special parallel bars, his hands gripping the side supports firmly. His face showed intense concentration, a thin layer of sweat glistening on his forehead. Around him, a small group watched with contained expectation. Augustus, Zoe, Mrs. Irene, Dr. Sophia, and Dr. Matthew. Mari was on the other side of the parallel bars, about 5 meters away, her eyes fixed on Raphael's, silently conveying confidence. "Remember what we practiced," Dr. Matthew instructed gently. "Weight transfer, stabilize the hip, then advance 1 foot. Don't rush." Raphael nodded, breathing deeply. The last 3 months since the beginning of the second phase of treatment had been transformative. The pro-neuroplasticity medications developed by Dr. Sophia exceeded all expectations, accelerating the formation of new neural connections. Combined with daily intensive physical therapy, they had allowed Raphael to progress from orthostasis training, standing with support, to his first assisted steps in just 12 weeks. "You can do it." "Raphael," Augustus encouraged, his voice choked with emotion. "No rush, at your own pace." With determination evident in every muscle of his face, Raphael initiated the movement. First, he transferred his weight to his right leg, which now had enough strength to support him briefly. Then, with visible effort, he advanced his left leg a few centimeters, completing the first step. His hands squeezed the bars tightly, but he didn't rely entirely on them for balance. His abdominal and back muscles, strengthened by months of specific exercises, did their part in keeping him stable. "Perfect," Dr. Matthew praised. "Exactly as we practiced. Now, when you're ready, the next step." Slowly, with calculated and precise movements, Raphael advanced again. 1 step, then another and another. Each movement was a small victory, each centimeter gained a triumph over the impossible. Halfway there, he paused, breathing deeply. The effort was visible, but his eyes shone with a mixture of determination and joy. "Am I doing well?" he asked, his voice slightly breathless. "Better than well," Dr. Sophia replied, monitoring his vital signs and movement pattern. "Your coordination is remarkably fluid for someone taking their first independent steps." Raphael smiled, catching his breath, and then resumed his journey. Each step seemed a little more confident than the last, as if his body was quickly relearning a long-forgotten skill. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, but was only a few minutes, Raphael reached the end of the parallel bars, a few centimeters from Mari. His legs trembled with effort, but he remained standing victorious. "You did it!" Mari exclaimed, her eyes shining with pride. "You crossed the entire bars." "I'm not done yet," Raphael replied with a determined smile. Slowly, he released one hand from the bar, extending it to Mari. It was the most challenging part, maintaining balance with only one point of support. Mari understood immediately. She stepped forward, positioning herself directly in front of Raphael, and firmly held his outstretched hand. For a brief but significant moment, they remained like that, connected, symbolizing the journey they had traveled together. Then, in an act of courage that surprised everyone, Raphael released his other hand from the bar. For 3, 4, 5 seconds, he remained standing, holding only Mari's hand, before his knees began to buckle. Dr. Matthew quickly stepped forward to support him, but not before everyone witnessed that moment of pure, albeit brief, independence. The room erupted in applause and exclamations. Augustus couldn't hold back his tears, hugging Zoe and Mrs. Irene, who were also openly weeping. Dr. Sophia smiled, making notes on her tablet, probably updating her projections for Raphael's recovery. which continued to exceed all expectations. That was amazing. Raphael, Dr. Matthew praised, helping him sit on a nearby bench. You just took 9 complete steps with minimal support, and you managed to balance for a few seconds, holding only one hand. It's an extraordinary milestone. 9 steps, Raphael repeated, savoring the achievement. 9 steps for my 9th birthday. He looked at Mari with a knowing smile. We met our goal. Mari nodded, remembering the promise they had made weeks ago, that by the time he turned 9 years and 3 months, Raphael would take at least as many steps as his age. An ambitious goal that many would consider impossible, but which was now gloriously achieved. And this is just the beginning, she affirmed with her usual conviction. Next week it will be 15 steps. Next month across the garden. One thing at a time, Dr. Sophia interjected, smiling at the children's enthusiasm. What Raphael has just achieved is extraordinary, but we cannot rush the rehabilitation process. Each stage has its own time. But you yourself said I'm progressing faster than expected, Raphael argued. And you are, Sophia agreed. In fact, I have to admit that you are rewriting much of what we knew about neuromotor recovery in cases like yours. The latest MRI scans show a formation of new neural connections that is, she searched for the right word, unprecedented in medical literature. Augustus approached, finally recovered from the initial emotion. What does this mean in practical terms, Doctor? It means we need to reassess our goals, she replied, showing some images on her tablet. These are Raphael's functional brain MRI scans from 3 weeks ago, compared to yesterday's. See how the motor areas are much more active, with new connections forming at an accelerated rate. That's good, right? Mari asked, striving to understand the colorful images. It's exceptional, Sophia confirmed. The combination of medications, intensive physical therapy and... She hesitated, looking at Mari with an enigmatic smile, and some other factor that we don't yet fully understand is resulting in a recovery that surpasses our most optimistic predictions. What would that other factor be? Zoe asked, curious. Dr. Sophia looked at Mari again. I have a theory, but I would need more research to confirm it. Let's just say there are certain elements of Raphael's recovery that defy purely medical explanation. Mari blushed slightly under the doctor's gaze, as if an unverbalized secret passed between them. From the beginning, her ability to see differently, as her mother always said, had played a crucial role in the story. First by finding the buried letters, then by instinctively sensing which exercises would work best for Raphael, almost as if she could visualize the neural pathways that needed to be stimulated. The important thing, Dr. Sophia continued, returning her attention to Augustus, is that we can revise our schedule. If progress continues at this rate, I believe that within 6 months Raphael will be able to walk with light crutches for short distances. And in a year, she smiled, who knows, walk independently around the house. The news was better than anyone had dared to hope. The initial plan estimated at least 2 years until that level of independence. What about school? Raphael asked, always practical. Will I be able to go back to in-person classes? Next semester, without a doubt, Sophia replied. Initially with some adaptations, but I believe that by the end of the year, you will be able to participate in almost all activities. The rest of the day was dedicated to celebrations. Zoe prepared a special lunch, and even Dr. Edward Martin made a surprise visit, bringing news about the progress of the legal case. Vanessa and Dr. Richard have been formally charged, he informed them during coffee on the veranda. The evidence is irrefutable. The recorded confession, the medication analyses, the financial records. The jury will have no difficulty convicting them. What about my cooperation agreement? Augustus asked. Is it still valid? Perfectly, Edward confirmed. In exchange for your detailed cooperation in the investigation, you will not be held responsible for negligence. The prosecutors understand that you were also a victim of the manipulation. Augustus nodded, relieved. Although he had never directly participated in Vanessa's actions, he felt an enormous burden for not having realized what was happening under his own roof for so many years. And there's one more thing, Edward added, taking an envelope from his briefcase. A letter from Lucy, Clara's cousin, whom she mentioned in the emails. She has finally been located abroad. Augustus took the envelope with trembling hands. Why didn't she get in touch sooner? She explains in the letter. Basically, after what happened to Clara, Vanessa threatened her. Lucy fled to Portugal, afraid that she too would become a target. Later, after everyone had retired, Augustus read the letter in the privacy of his office. In it, Lucy explained how Clara had shared her suspicions in the final weeks of pregnancy, sending samples of the vitamins for analysis. When the results confirmed the presence of toxic substances, Lucy helped Clara obtain the activated charcoal that potentially saved Raphael from even greater harm. The letter also mentioned that Clara had left a complete diary, detailing her discoveries and suspicions, which Lucy had kept hidden all these years. She promised to send it as soon as the trial ended, so Augustus could finally know the whole story from his beloved wife's perspective. Meanwhile, in the garden, Mari and Raphael enjoyed the sunny afternoon. He was in his smart chair, which he now used mainly for longer distances, while Mari picked some of the most beautiful roses for a centerpiece arrangement. I managed to convince my dad to do something important, Raphael commented, watching his friend carefully select the flowers. What? Mari asked, interested. We'll visit the place where my mom is resting next Sunday, he revealed. It will be the first time I go there. My dad never wanted to take me before. He said it was too painful. Mari stopped what she was doing, understanding the importance of that moment. That's amazing, Rafa. You'll be able to take some of those roses to her. Yes, but that's not all. He paused as if gathering courage. I want to try to stand there, even if it's just for a few seconds with help. I want her to see that I'm getting better. Mari smiled, understanding the deep symbolism of that wish. She'll see, I'm sure. Approaching the chair, Mari handed Raphael a particularly perfect rose, a deep, velvety red. This one grew exactly where we found the box with the letters. It must be special. Raphael accepted the flower, delicately touching the petals. Sometimes I think my mom somehow knew you would come. That she buried the letters in that specific spot, because she knew that one day someone with eyes that see differently would find them. Perhaps, Mari agreed thoughtfully. My mum always says there are connections between people that go beyond what we can understand. That night, after dinner, Augustus gathered everyone in the living room for an important announcement. As you know, the Clara Chestnut Foundation is almost ready to begin its activities, he began, displaying architectural plans on a large central table. The rehabilitation center was designed incorporating all the accessibility ideas Raphael and Mari developed. The plans showed a modern and welcoming complex with integrated green spaces, physical therapy areas, therapeutic pools, and research laboratories. The first phase will be inaugurated in 3 months, Augustus continued, with an initial capacity to serve 50 patients simultaneously. The priority will be low-income children with motor challenges similar to those Raphael faced. Raphael observed the plans with evident pride. Many of the architectural concepts had originated from his initial drawings, refined by professional architects who marveled at the boy's creativity and sensitivity in creating truly inclusive spaces. But tonight, I want to announce something more, Augustus proceeded, his gaze sweeping over the faces that now constituted his family. After consulting lawyers and social workers, I filed the papers to legally formalize what is already happening in practice, the inclusion of Zoe and Mari in our family. Mari looked at Augustus, then at her mother, confused. What exactly does that mean? Zoe approached, holding her daughter's hands. It means, my dear, that Augustus is requesting shared legal guardianship of you with me. You will continue to be my daughter, but you will officially also be part of the Chestnut family, with all the rights and protections that implies, including, Augustus added, protection against any threats related to your past. Mari paled slightly. Few knew, but during the investigation into Vanessa, Edward had discovered unsettling information about Mari's deceased biological father, a researcher involved in illegal genetic experiments who had fled the country years ago, leaving behind a daughter with unusual perceptive abilities and a frightened mother who sought to hide from potential pursuers. No one will ever be able to take you from us, Augustus assured firmly. The legal documents will guarantee that, and the Foundation will provide the perfect environment for you to develop your special abilities safely and constructively. Mari, usually so eloquent, was momentarily speechless. It was Raphael who spoke for her. "This means you're officially my sister now, even if we don't have the same blood." The girl finally smiled, understanding. Family isn't just about blood. It's about who's by your side when you need them most. Exactly, Augustus agreed. And speaking of family, there's one more thing I'd like to announce. He looked at Zoe with a warm smile. Zoe has agreed to take on the administrative directorship of the foundation. Her experience in community management before coming to Ashworth will be invaluable for our social projects. Mrs. Irene applauded enthusiastically. No one deserves this opportunity more. Zoe has a heart of gold and a brilliant mind. The evening continued with animated conversations about the future, plans for the foundation, for the continuation of Raphael's treatment, for Mari's education, who had shown exceptional talent for science and mathematics, in addition to her mysterious perceptive ability. Later, when everyone had retired, Raphael asked Augustus to push him in his chair to the garden. The night was clear, with a starry sky that looked like a canvas of diamonds on black velvet. "Is everything all right, son?" Augustus asked, noticing Raphael's thoughtful expression. "Yes, I just wanted to see the stars," the boy replied, "and think about everything that has happened this past year." Augustus positioned the chair at a spot with a privileged view of the night sky and sat on a nearby bench. "It's been an incredible journey, hasn't it?" "Transformative," Raphael agreed. "Sometimes I think about what my life would be like if Mari had never come. I'd probably still be confined to that chair, believing I'd never get better." "The universe has mysterious ways of putting the right people in our path," Augustus philosophized. "As your mother used to say, nothing happens by chance." Raphael smiled upon hearing the reference to Clara. In recent months, Augustus had begun to share more memories of her, as if the pain had finally given way to a sweet longing that could be expressed in words. "Dad, can I ask you a question?" "Of course, son. Anything you want." "Do you think I'll ever be able to walk normally, like other kids?" Augustus reflected before answering, carefully choosing his words. "Dr. Sophia believes you will achieve a functional level of mobility, perhaps with some occasional support. But normal? Well, what is normal after all? Each person has their own characteristics, their own ways of moving through the world." He paused, looking directly into his son's eyes. "What I can guarantee is that you will have every opportunity to develop your potential to the fullest, whatever level of mobility you achieve. And more important than walking like others is walking your own path with purpose and meaning." Raphael nodded, seeming satisfied with the answer. "I already know what my purpose will be. I want to design places where all people can feel capable, not disabled. I want to change the way cities are built." "An accessibility architect," Augustus smiled. "I can't imagine anyone more qualified for that mission." They remained silent for a few moments, contemplating the stars, each immersed in their own thoughts. Finally, Raphael made a request. "Dad, help me stand? Just for a moment. I want to look at the stars standing up, like we used to do on the company terrace, remember?" With care and affection, Augustus helped his son out of the chair and to his feet, supporting him firmly. Raphael struggled to maintain his posture, using the techniques he had learned in physical therapy sessions. "Look," he whispered, amazed. "From here the stars look different." "It's a matter of perspective," Augustus replied softly. "Sometimes we need to change our point of view to see possibilities that were always there." Together, father and son remained like that for almost a minute, a record time for Raphael without specialized support. When he finally returned to the chair, there was no disappointment on his face, only satisfaction for what he had managed to achieve and determination for the next challenges. On Sunday morning, the family prepared for the important visit to Clara's resting place. Raphael had carefully chosen what to wear, a sky-blue shirt, his mother's favorite color according to Augustus. Mari had selected the most beautiful roses from the garden, creating a delicate arrangement. The Ashworth Municipal Cemetery, with its centuries-old trees and stone paths, had a serene atmosphere that sunny morning. Augustus pushed Raphael's chair along the paths, with Mari, Zoe, and Mrs. Irene walking alongside. "It's there," Augustus finally indicated, pointing to a white marble headstone under the shade of a yellow trumpet tree. They approached slowly. The headstone was simple and elegant, with the name Clara Montero Chestnut engraved in golden letters, followed by the dates and the phrase, "Her love transcends time and space." A small vase contained already withered flowers, which Augustus quickly replaced with the fresh roses Mari handed him. Raphael observed in silence, absorbing the experience. After a few moments, he turned to his father. "I want to stand here. I want her to see me like this." With the help of Augustus and Mari, Raphael got out of his chair. This time, in addition to human support, he used the special crutches he had begun training with in recent physical therapy sessions. With visible effort but unwavering determination, he managed to balance. "Hi, Mom," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "It took me a while to come visit you, but I'm here now. And look, I'm standing." Mari discreetly wiped away a tear that streamed down her own face. Zoe and Irene embraced emotional, while Augustus watched his son with infinite pride. "Thank you for protecting me," Raphael continued, "for fighting for me until the end, for leaving the clues Mari found. Because of you, I'm recovering. One day," he took a deep breath, gathering strength, "one day I'll come back here walking alone. I promise." Carefully, he bent down, leaning on his crutches, and touched the headstone with his free hand. It was a moment of deep connection, as if he was finally closing a circle that had begun 9 years earlier. As they prepared to leave, Mari noticed something surprising, a small green shoot emerging exactly where Raphael had touched the earth near the headstone. She didn't comment to anyone, keeping that small wonder to herself. Another of the inexplicable synchronicities that seemed to happen around that special family. In the weeks that followed, life at Chestnut Manor followed its new rhythm: physical therapy sessions, private lessons for the children, preparations for the foundation's inauguration. Raphael progressed constantly, now practicing with crutches for increasingly longer distances. A month after the cemetery visit, on a particularly beautiful afternoon, Raphael made an unusual request to Mari. "Let's go to the wall where we found the letters. I want to try something." Using his crutches, with Mari patiently walking beside him, Raphael traversed the garden step by step. The path was short, less than 20 yards, but it represented an enormous distance for someone relearning to walk. When they finally arrived at the spot, Raphael was breathless but radiant with satisfaction. Exactly where they had unearthed the box with the letters, now flourished the most vigorous rose garden on the entire property. "I did it," he said simply, contemplating the blooming flower bed. "I promised myself that one day I would come here on my own 2 feet. Technically, you're using crutches," Mari teased with a smile. "Details," Raphael laughed. "The important thing is that I'm here standing where it all began." Mari picked a rose and handed it to her friend. "To celebrate your victory." Raphael accepted the flower, emotional. "Our victory, Mari. I wouldn't have gotten here without you." They sat on a nearby bench, Raphael resting his legs as they contemplated the garden that so perfectly symbolized his journey, from abandonment and desolation to renewal and flourishing. "You know what I like most about these roses?" Mari commented thoughtfully. "They have thorns, they face winters. Sometimes they seem almost dead. But they always bloom again, more beautiful than before." Raphael smiled, understanding the metaphor. "Like us." In the distance, on the manor's veranda, Augustus watched the children with a feeling of profound gratitude. The house, once so dark and full of secrets, now overflowed with light, hope, and purpose. The Clara Chestnut Foundation would be inaugurated the following week. The trial of Vanessa and Dr. Richard was in its final stages, with conviction practically certain. Raphael took firmer steps each day. Mari blossomed in her studies and in the development of her special abilities. Zoe found her place as a respected administrator. Mrs. Irene smiled more than she had in decades, and Augustus, finally understood the words Clara so often repeated: "Sometimes the hardest path leads us exactly where we need to be." Looking at Raphael and Mari in the garden, he knew that Maxim had never been truer. The path had been winding and painful, filled with seemingly insurmountable obstacles, but it had led all of them exactly where they should be, together, forming an unlikely but genuine family, united not by blood, but by something much stronger: the choice to walk side by side, supporting each other every step of the way, celebrating every victory, no matter how small, and never, ever giving up when the path seemed impossible. And perhaps that was the greatest lesson Raphael had learned on his journey, that walking, in the deepest sense of the word, was not just a matter of legs and muscles, but of courage, perseverance, and above all, of having people by his side willing to hold his hand in moments of uncertainty. In the years that followed, Chestnut Manor would become known not as the place where a tragedy had occurred, but as the epicenter of a silent revolution in how society viewed and treated people with motor challenges. The Foundation's pioneering work, inspired by Raphael's personal story, would transform thousands of lives. And all because a girl with keen eyes and a brave heart decided, on that fateful day, to push a lonely boy's chair and explore a forgotten corner of the garden. As Raphael often said in his lectures as an adult, never underestimate the power of a small act of courage. Sometimes it's all we need to change not just one life, but the entire world.